Imagine waking up every morning not knowing if you will have food, clean water, or even access to a hospital. Now imagine this is not just your reality, but the reality of over 2 million people, day after day. The world watches, but the crisis in Gaza only deepens. The real question is, why, with so much global attention, does the situation keep getting worse? To understand Gaza's collapse, we need to step back. Gaza is an enclave on the Mediterranean coast, home to more than 2 million Palestinians. Since the year 2007, when Hamas took control, Israel has imposed a blockade by land, air, and sea. This blockade was meant to pressure Hamas, but instead it has suffocated Gaza's economy and trapped its people in a cycle of poverty and despair. Before the blockade, Gaza was not wealthy, but it was not on the brink of humanitarian collapse. Businesses traded goods, fishermen brought in their daily catch, and people could cross into Egypt and Israel for work or medical care. But over the past 17 years, the blockade has made daily life almost impossible. The economy withered, unemployment soared to among the highest rates in the world. When you cannot move freely or import essential goods, how can you build factories, open shops, or even repair your own home? Repeated wars between Israel and Hamas have pummeled Gaza's infrastructure. Each time there is a conflict, schools, hospitals, and homes are damaged or destroyed. International organizations, from the United Nations to Doctors Without Borders, warn that the civilian population is paying the ultimate price. The United Nations Secretary General called the destruction in Gaza a stain on our collective conscience. Today, the crisis is reaching a breaking point. In just the past week, the United Nations Relief and Works Agency reported more than 75,000 people displaced in Rafah alone, overwhelming the already crowded shelters. The World Health Organization confirms that only 12 of the 36 hospitals in Gaza are even partially functional, and they are running out of supplies and staff. The International Committee of the Red Cross says that aid convoys are regularly delayed or blocked, so food and medicine are running dangerously low. Even the United States State Department, often cautious in its statements, now talks about pockets of starvation in northern Gaza and urges Israel to let more aid through. Over 70% of water and sanitation facilities have been damaged or destroyed. The threat of disease outbreaks is rising every day. And as of now, Gaza's only power plant is completely shut down. Essential services, water pumps, hospital equipment, even phone chargers, have ground to a halt. The city's heartbeat is fading. With every setback, emotions run high. What we are witnessing in Gaza is beyond the pale. The blatant disregard for human life and dignity is a moral outrage, says the president of the International Committee of the Red Cross. The European Union has pledged over 80 million euros in new humanitarian aid, but even that money is useless if trucks cannot get through. So, how did we get to the point where Gaza's entire economy and social system are falling apart in plain sight, while the world's most powerful institutions remain paralyzed? And what will happen if the blockade and the conflict continue, or even escalate? The answers could determine not just the fate of Gaza, but the future of the entire region. What comes next for Gaza is not set in stone. The world stands at a crossroads, and the direction chosen will shape not only the lives of millions in Gaza, but could also ripple out across the Middle East and beyond. One path is the most hopeful, a negotiated ceasefire, finally allowing humanitarian aid to surge in and the painstaking work of rebuilding to begin. Imagine new homes rising from the rubble, children returning to classrooms, and hospitals reopening their doors. But such a future demands more than simply stopping the bullets. It requires the political courage to address deep-rooted grievances, the question of Jerusalem, the right of return for displaced Palestinians, and an end to the occupation. Without real solutions, the wounds of Gaza will never truly heal. The second, far darker scenario is one of endless crisis. If the blockade tightens and the bombs keep falling, Gaza could become a permanent disaster zone. With over 70% of water and sanitation infrastructure destroyed and only a fraction of hospitals barely functional, disease and hunger would claim more lives than bombs ever could. In this world, hope dries up, replaced by anger and desperation, fueling a cycle of violence that spills over borders. As one UN official warned, the decimation of Gaza is a stain on our collective conscience. There is a third, even more alarming possibility, a regional escalation. All it takes is one miscalculation for local clashes to ignite a wider conflict, drawing in neighboring nations and triggering devastation unseen in a generation. The consequences could reshape borders, topple governments, and send shockwaves through the global economy. As history shows, instability in this region rarely stays contained. So what does all this mean for you as a viewer, far from Gaza's battered streets? First, it's a reminder that global crises are never as distant as they seem. The supply chain disruptions, energy price spikes, and geopolitical tensions caused by instability in the Middle East can rapidly affect everyday lives around the world. Humanitarian disasters also generate massive refugee flows, create security challenges, and test the limits of international law and diplomacy. Second, Gaza's tragedy exposes the limits of international systems meant to protect civilians and prevent war crimes. If global outrage fizzles into apathy, it sends a dangerous message that red lines can be crossed without consequence. But if enough voices demand accountability and real action, through supporting humanitarian organizations, contacting elected officials, or simply refusing to look away, change becomes possible. As the president of the International Committee of the Red Cross put it, the blatant disregard for human life and dignity is a moral outrage. There's a personal lesson hidden in the headlines. History is not just something that happens elsewhere. Each of us has a role, however small, in shaping what comes next, by staying informed, questioning easy narratives, and supporting those working for peace and justice. How did we get here? The answer is a mix of failed leadership, international paralysis, and the world's tendency to look away when conflicts become too complex or uncomfortable. As long as the fundamental issues remain unresolved, Gaza's suffering will remind us of the cost of inaction. But here's the secret most headlines miss. The situation is not hopeless. Ceasefires are possible. Humanitarian corridors can be opened. Rebuilding can begin if there is pressure and political will from the international community and from ordinary people who refuse to accept endless tragedy as normal. What happens in Gaza matters to all of us. If you believe in the value of human life, in rules that protect the innocent, and in the possibility of peace, now is the time to pay attention and to act. Support trusted aid organizations, share information that cuts through the noise, and demand that leaders live up to their responsibilities. Because in a connected world, standing by is no longer an option. If you found this video insightful, please subscribe and share it with someone who cares about the future. Leave your thoughts in the comments. What do you think the world should